Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. I'm tired right now. Alright, this is part 2, Supreme Ruler of Russia, Rise of Admiral Kolchak. Click that little thumbs up button for me, that helps tremendously. Just can't have it right, can I? It's always got to fight. Something's got to just give me a problem. Okay. So, click that thumbs up button. For me, that helps. You can subscribe to the channel, and you can donate to the channel through the thanks button. I'm going to sneeze, so let's go ahead and start the video.
In contrast, most of his sailors celebrated the news of revolution in Petrograd. Their life was one of grim conditions and brutal discipline. Finally, here was a chance to overturn that hated regime. In Sevastopol, sailors elected their own Soviet council and formed their own committees. Initial demands included renaming every ship which carried an imperial name. Discipline and respect for authority began to collapse. Kolchak maintained a high tempo of military operations to keep his men occupied, but privately talked of facing the disgrace of a senseless mutiny in wartime. For 3 months, he held the fleet together, with firm leadership and careful compromises with his sailors.
This guy right here looks like a young Ted Bundy. And that's not a compliment. I mean, this guy did nothing wrong, but wow.
But Bolshevik
Ted Bundy's a serial killer, for people who don't know.
agitators were at work amongst the men. They wanted the capitalist war ended immediately, and Tsarist officers like Kolchak removed from command. In June, the crew of his own flagship, the Georgy Pobedonosets, confronted the admiral. They demanded that all officers be stripped of their sidearms and swords. To avoid bloodshed, Kolchak agreed. But rather than hand over his own ceremonial sword, he hurled it into the sea. "Even the Japanese, our enemies, let me keep my weapons," he told his men. "You will not have them now." A few days later, Kolchak resigned his command and travelled to Petrograd. His wife and son remained in Crimea. He would not see them again. Kolchak had already publicly denounced the reforms of Russia's new provisional government, which he believed were destroying the military. Now, the story of his defiance in the face of mutiny made headlines across Russia. Kolchak's reputation among Russian conservatives was sky high. They even wondered if he might be the military dictator the country needed to restore law and order. Such whispers alarmed Russia's provisional government. The new Minister of War, Alexander Kerensky, may even have seen Kolchak as a potential rival. So he met with Kolchak and informed him that he was to be sent abroad as part of a military mission to the Western Allies. In truth, it was what Kolchak himself described as a form of political exile. That summer, Kolchak sailed via Norway, to Britain, then to the United States of America. He met with President Wilson and senior US naval officers. But plans for meaningful military cooperation between Russia and the Allies were clearly going nowhere. In San Francisco, Kolchak accepted an invitation to return to Russia, to enter politics as a candidate for the Cadets, Russia's last non-socialist political party. But in Japan, en route home, he received shocking news. There had been a second revolution in Russia. The Bolsheviks had seized power. Lenin was now in charge. Kolchak was
I thought he was going to have received news that the Tsar had been killed, but because I don't know if... I didn't hear it yet that he had been killed. So that's what I was expecting, and I figured, ooh, he's probably not going to like that. But I think after Lenin takes power, I think then he's killed. The whole family. Am I wrong? Just trailing off over there, aren't I?
Appalled by the October Revolution of 1917. He despised Lenin and the Bolsheviks, who'd soon rename themselves the Russian Communist Party. The chief cause of his hostility was Lenin's plan to make an immediate peace with Germany. Like many Tsarist officers, Kolchak regarded Russia's commitments to her World War I allies as sacred. Lenin's negotiations with the Germans were both dishonorable and treasonous. Kolchak's course of action was clear. As an admiral of the Russian fleet, I considered our Allied commitment to the war against Germany to remain in full force. The only form in which I could continue my service to the motherland, which was now in the hands of German agents and traitors, was to join the war effort against Germany on the side of our allies. Kolchak offered his services to the British. They initially planned to send him to Mesopotamia, but soon backed him for a much larger role. With fighting still raging on World War I's Western Front, the Allies were desperate for Russia to rejoin the struggle against Germany. This meant removing Lenin and the Bolsheviks from power, who that July added to their crimes by executing Emperor Nicholas II and his entire family at Yekaterinburg. Therefore, as civil war engulfed Russia, the Allies would back the anti-Bolshevik forces, known as the Whites, against the Bolsheviks, the Reds. The British now put forward Admiral Kolchak as a man who could unify and lead White Russian forces in the Far East, a proposal that met with widespread support. In September 1918, Kolchak arrived in Vladivostok. Here he learned that anti-Bolshevik groups had recently met in Ufa and established a new provisional all-Russian government. This was effectively a continuation of the provisional government that had been swept aside by the Bolsheviks. Therefore, it had little support from Kolchak and other conservatives, who blamed the provisional government for leading Russia into chaos in the first place. That month, the advance of Bolshevik Red Army troops forced the provisional government to abandon Ufa and retreat to Omsk. Kolchak traveled 2,800 miles by train to join it. On the 5th of November 1918, after much discussion, he agreed to become the provisional government's Minister of War and Navy. 2 days later, Kolchak formed a general staff and went to the front to assess the situation. Across Russia, the military situation was incredibly complex. White Russian forces were scattered on Russia's periphery. General Boldyrev commanded 180,000 provisional government troops on the Omsk front. General Denikin's volunteer army in southern Russia had around 50,000 troops. The northern Russian government, a small White Russian enclave, had just 6,000 troops. They were supported by Allied contingents of varying sizes, mostly in support and training roles. The Allies' most important contribution was sending arms, ammunition and supplies via Russia's seaports. Then there was the Czechoslovak Legion, about 50,000 strong, on the Omsk front. The Legion's story was an odd one. The unit, made up mostly of Czech volunteers, had been fighting alongside the Russians on the Eastern Front against the Germans. When the Bolsheviks took over and made peace with Germany, the Legion had received permission to travel by rail to Vladivostok, to then travel by sea to France, to rejoin the Allies. But the Bolsheviks then changed their mind and tried to disarm the Czechs, who fought back. The Legion was now stranded in Russia, but held key points along the Trans-Siberian Railway, the crucial east-west transport and supply route. To further complicate the picture, Russia's civil war raged alongside several national wars and independence struggles in Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania, and elsewhere. Russia's white forces, fragmented both geographically and often politically, faced the gigantic resources of Lenin's Bolshevik Russian state, controlling Russia's major cities, industrial centers and transport hubs, with around 800,000 troops under its command. It was a daunting prospect. The challenging military situation did nothing to ease political tensions among the Whites. They included at one extreme left-wing socialist revolutionaries who'd led the February Revolution. At the other extreme, right-wing conservatives who wanted to restore the monarchy. This latter group had no more time for socialists and provisional governments. They believed only a strong dictator could save Russia now. On the 18th of November, they made their move. 300 Cossack troops rode into Omsk and arrested all the socialist revolutionary delegates they could find. The provisional government was abolished by its own executive, the Council of Ministers. It then moved to elect a new supreme ruler of Russia, who would wield complete dictatorial power. The man they chose was Admiral Alexander Kolchak. A proven leader with a brilliant military record, widely respected, in close contact with the Western Allies. Above all, he was a man who shared their vision that only a return to law and order could save Russia from chaos. Kolchak himself had not sought the position of supreme ruler, believing others were better suited. But duty had called, and he would answer. We hope you've enjoyed part 1 of our series on Admiral Kolchak, and if you'd like to be the first to see part 2, ad-free, as well as episode...
That was interesting. That was good. Kind of curious to know a little bit more about him now. I know there's a part 2 out, and I'm going to do that one next. But yeah, I'm curious to know a little bit more about him. Okay, well, we're done. The video's over. All gone. So, I'm ready for a nap. But until next time, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you got any requests, any more unknown people, or people that I don't know of, which is probably 99.900% of the population, and just throw them out there. I'd love to react to them. So until next time, and it doesn't always have to be a good person. It could be a terrible person. Yeah, I'm equally fair in my respect and hatred of people. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.